しい友達が来たしげし君の学校で。
チェアが好きですか？
好き好き好き好き好き。
Konnichiwa! Today we're talking about SRS, that's Space Repetition System. Now, why do you need to know about it? How you can use this with your kids, and of course, how you can use it to study on your own time. This is what you need to know. This is it. Once you master your own little take on this SRS system, you're in the game. You will be speaking, you will be reading, you will know what you need to know, or at least a way to know what you need to know. Nah, you'll get it. So let's just jump right in. So first, what is space repetition system? Basically, long story short, because you can Google this, or there's a ton of blogs and YouTube channels about it. So I just want to bring it to you real short and concise. It's basically a study they did about how see, I'm getting bored already. How your brain works with memory, and all you have to do is recall a word in a certain amount of time for that word to move into your long-term memory, right? So that's why Pimsleur, Rosetta Stone, Duolingo, all your favorite apps are so popular. And that's it. They're just pre-made flashcards for you that's going to show you the word, like, hey, here's a cat. And then a day later, here's a cat. And then 3 days later, here's a cat. A week later, cat. And then that way your brain, right before it's about to forget, is like, oh, you know what? That's a cat. So that's what we want to keep hitting those marks. You're not getting enough immersion or exposure on your own with this second language. So you need something to keep reminding you of these marks. If you lived in the country, or you just pure immersion, or you grew up this way, you would get reminded about cats and dogs and things of this nature. I'm using that very simple, but I mean like government, news. Let's think big picture. On the regular, every day on TV, as you walk down the street, you would hear it in the mall. And so this tends to happen in our children's lives, and as we grew up learning English. But we forget about all that because we're adults now and we don't remember how we learned English. So I'm here to remind you, that's what it was. Ting ting. So how do we get that back? Easy. You get your phone out, Google Play Store, Anki. That's Anki. And with Anki, you can download other people's decks that they've made, but I kind of shy away from that because if it's not personalized, it's not fun. And like, what they needed to know is not what you need to know, and it's not what your kids need to know. So you want to download Anki, and you can input sentences as you're reading through your children's book with your kids. Ba-bum. Here we go. We got the word kidding here. And maybe you can plan in a trip to the zoo, so you can put in the animal names. You can put in some sentences. Like this actually says, let's go meet some animals. So you might want to put that sentence in, so it can keep reminding you of that sentence, as you prepare for your trip. But all you have to do, you put it into Anki, and then just keep checking Anki like 3 times a day. Let's go with that breakfast, lunch, and dinner thing, right? You check Anki, and it'll pop up. Oh, you have 1 sentence. Boom, you hit it. Lunch is not there. The next day it's going to be there again. And you're like, oh yeah, remember, let's go to the zoo. Let's go to the zoo. Let's go see the animals. Let's see the animals. And then, of course, practice this with your kids. As you're preparing for zoo, set up a little stuffed animal zoo and name the animals and use this vocabulary with them. But just like the behind the scenes of when that moment happens, when you're at the zoo and you need to say that sentence, that SRS, that you kept repeating it in the background, is what's going to help reinforce that and not make you embarrassed or shy away from actually saying it, out in public, in the wild. All right. So how are we using this with our kids? Simple. Kids love repetition anyway. So whatever you're reading, whatever you're watching on TV, just put it on repeat. You know, I had a best friend that will replay the same Toni Braxton song like for hours. Yeah, she know all the words. She been knew all the words. I know all the words, and I don't even listen to Toni Braxton like that. So that's where we're going with this. We need you to just put it on repeat. And kids don't mind at all. In our house, I keep saying baby bus, pink fong, because these are just, they speak at a great tone that you can pick up the words and you can really hear what they're saying. It's not fast, it's very kid friendly, it's very beginner friendly. So we always have that going in the background on the TV or a tablet or something. They watch other Japanese shows as well. Don't let me get started on Jason's new craves, but when it boils down, I'll default to my Shimajiro, Baby Bus, and Pink Fong. Speaking of the Shimajiro, you know, I'm always talking about my subscription I love, but getting something like this, it doesn't have to be what I have or a subscription of sorts, but if you get a series of something, it's kind of like when you're looking for a new recipe, right? You look for the recipe and you find one from this chef, one from that chef. You got the pioneer woman. You got all different kind of people, right? And you say, you'll end up with a cabinet full of random seasonings that you only use for that one recipe, Versus if you bought the cookbook or you stick to a couple of recipes from the same person, what happens? You realize they use the same seasonings in all their food. That's what we're going for here. So when you get a book and you buy a series, then you notice that this writer has the same style of writing. They use the same major big words. So then you can start cueing in on the little words. And I noticed that a lot. Like, I have the meat and the potatoes, but it's time to start getting the seasoning, the side dishes going. And because we kind of read through the same series of books, I can start cueing in on those little things that I might have missed in the beginning. Because I'll go back and reread the ones that we got, you know, years ago, and I'll notice, oh, I never even noticed that word because I was so busy trying to focus on the big words back then. But now I can, like, oh, okay, I can use this, I can use that. The words I'm talking about are like very, you know, adjectives. I don't want to say adjectives, but you know, when you're like, it's very little. So I would pick up on little and use that, but not the very, because that's not very important right now. But it does make you sound more fluent, and it's what you need. So later, you know, I pick up the very too. I'm like, very little, very big, very this, very that. Now I can use this word as well. Okay. And lastly, how you can be using it as a parent. I kind of touched on this in my explanation of the SRS system, but you should be using this even when you're not around your kids, when you're doing your own independent study from whatever method you decided to use, a textbook, website. I like Bunpo.jp or Wanikani, which Wanikani in itself is an SRS system, and so is Bunpo. But most sites are moving toward that because they know that's how memory naturally works now, and you can just use that. So I don't have to like hardcore remind myself these grammar points or these kanji, because I just go to my app like 3 times a day and boom, I'm getting reminded, and I'm just, you know, putting in the answers. All right, I'll do another video about how to change this passive input into active speaking that I was talking about going to the zoo and actually using it. It takes a little bit of tweaking to get it from a written word on the page to output, but we'll talk about that in another video. So thanks for watching. Don't forget, hit the subscribe button and comment. Let me know what you think, how you feel, if you like it, what's going on with you and your family. I love learning about your language journey and how I can make some videos that help you. All right, see you next week. Jane.